So, Marcus, tell me, why should people in the German-speaking part of the world read your book?
I think there is tremendous opportunity for those businesses in Germany to take advantage of the framework that is they ask you answer. Because whether it's Germany or any country in Europe or any country in the world, we're really all in the business of trust. That's the business we're in. And because of that, we know that our buyer today is vetting us on our website, whether we're a business to business or a business to consumer, they're vetting us to death before they reach out. And so, because they're vetting us, the question is, are we winning their trust before we've ever met them, before we've ever shook their hand, before we've had a conversation? Are we winning their trust? And the only way you're going to do that is really online and addressing the subjects that every buyer wants to know, but businesses aren't willing to talk about it. The other big advantage for Germany is the reality is most companies in Germany haven't done anything close to they ask you answer on their website. It's very rare. And so if I'm a business in Germany and I see the opportunity that is, gee, none of my competitors have done this, that's exciting. That's very, very exciting. And I want to be a part of that. And so I think that's why, number one, your business, regardless of where you are, it's based on trust. They ask you answer, it is the trust framework. It's going to show you how to get it. And number two, your competitors aren't doing it. Those are two great reasons for you to do they ask you answer.
Now, you have been speaking in so many parts of the world, in so many different countries, and I assume on one occasion or the other occasion, you have heard about maybe, the people are saying, well, we have a different culture, we're in a different part of the world. So what would you tell those people who would raise their hands and say, but Marcus, you know, we're different, in our part of the world.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to believe they're different. And to a degree, culturally, we are different. I'm not going to say that Germany is exactly like the United States. I mean, certainly as a whole, there's way more people that are willing to jump online and be very just, in out in the public in the US than necessarily Germany. But the way people make buying decisions in Germany is the same as it is in the US. And how it works is when we're considering spending our money on something, we have a series of questions, worries, fears, concerns. And because of that, we want to get those addressed. We want to get them addressed before we reach out to the company, before we give them our money. That's what we want to do. That doesn't change in any country. That doesn't change because we feel this risk. We want to mitigate the risk. How do we mitigate risk? We research. And so the question is, are they going to learn the answers to these questions? Are they going to have their fears addressed on your website or someone else's? That's what you have to ask yourself. But I can assure you that's what your buyers are doing right now in Germany. And again, that's why it excites me for anyone that's willing to take that leap, because there's so many in the country that are saying that, I mean, that still believe that everything is just done on a handshake, or everything is in person, or um, that that no companies in Germany are doing this. These things aren't true. None of the data agrees with that. I
Mm.
mean, it's not the year 1995 anymore. And so we've got to move past that and accept that everybody has learned to use the internet. Everybody depends on it. Everybody goes to websites to vet companies. Everybody has questions, worries, fears, issues, concerns. And you, as a business, it's your job to address these and to alleviate these.
Mhm. And so on the flip side, in the whole idea of the ask your answer, talking about problems, would you say that those companies who are not yet ready to take this leap are the ones who should not read the book, or should or I'm not the right audience for it. Let me put it that way.
Well, I would simply say this. This framework is very much designed for businesses where when someone is researching a product or service, they do a lot of research. It's perfect for that organization, for that business. So, in other words, if you said, should every business in the world do they ask you answer? Well, I don't think it should be everybody's focus. If I was a restaurant, there's not some very intensive research process that someone goes through. They might go online, look at their website, look at their menu, look at a review site, but as a whole, there's not a lot of intensive research. If I'm a furniture company, there's a lot of research that somebody does about if I'm a kitchen appliance company, there's a lot of research. If I'm a business selling to another business, there's a lot of research that's involved. And when there's a lot of research involved, we see time and time again that there's no better framework for that type of company. Also, if you're the type of company that has a sales force, a sales team, and your sales team is consistently fielding questions and they have to be skilled, this is the framework for you. It's the one that you've been looking for, you just didn't know existed, right? And so I'm not going to say it's for everybody, they ask you answer. But if there's a research driven approach to buying, you must do yourself the favor and buy this book.
So from the experience, we see that very often companies, when they start working with the Ask You Answer, it becomes a transformation for the whole organization. And of course, along with those transformations, um, there are also some obstacles, some problems along the way. So, how would you encourage companies to start with the Ask You Answer off the right foot after they have, bought into the idea, read the book, are fully committed going into it? What would you encourage them to do and advise them to?
Yeah, sure. So let's say that you've read the book and you're saying to yourself, okay, we want to become the voice of trust. We want to be the most trusted guide in our space, and we want to implement this. Well, number one, don't overcomplicate it. Don't make it harder than what it is. Brainstorm all the questions you've received over the years from a potential buyer, potential prospect. Write them down. That's going to be the core of your content strategy, of the videos you produce, of the articles you write, of the social media that you do. That's going to be at the core of it. All those questions, worries, fears, issues, concerns that your buyers have. Now, in order to be very successful, though, you got to do two things we found in terms of working with so many companies. Number one, you got to make sure you have buy-in from top to bottom in the organization. That's critical. It's going to be key for you. And there's different ways you can do that. You can start by having your leadership team read a book, right? The book that is They Ask You Answer. It's designed to help people that won't necessarily believe to see the light. And anybody that reads They Ask You Answer with an open heart is going to have a change of heart because of what they read. It's almost undeniable once they see it all come together in the case studies, and they're like, this is so obvious. So that's the first thing you want to do is you want to get buy-in, but not just with leadership, with everybody on the team. And the way that you can do that is we always suggest some type of workshop, right? Where someone like Renee comes out and meets with you and your team and explains the what, the how, and the why of They Ask You Answer. So this way you get rid of any resistance on the front end. This way there's no one saying, why are we doing this? Or what's my role going to be? So you get in front of that. Okay. So that's the first big key. The second key is you want to have someone on staff that really owns content production. And that's what they do. They're interviewing your subject matter experts in-house, and they are taking that content and they're putting it up on the web through articles, through videos, etc. That's really the two main elements. And we can argue there's a third one really, which is measuring the success. And the way you measure the success is you use the right tools. Most of our clients use a tool like HubSpot. It's not the only one out there, but that's one of the most common out there. And by doing that, you can see, wow, this is really, really working. But number one key, get the buy-in. Number two key, get someone whose sole purpose in life is to produce that content. Tell your story as an organization. Don't try to just have your own whole team write articles. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Make sure you get somebody to own it. And then number three, measure it. You do these things, you're probably going to be very, very successful. There's a fourth I'm going to put on there as an add-on, and that is we always suggest that you get a guide. Once again, somebody like René here, because there's a lot of folks that come to me. I get messages around the world. People say, hey, Marcus, I read the book and I'm doing They Ask You Answer. And then I'll look at what they're doing and they're just doing things wrong. And, if you have a choice and you can do it a 7 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, why would you not do it a 10 out of 10?
Mm.
Why are you going to limit your success? And so you may as well not reinvent the wheel. We've got people that have done this again and again, and you won't need a guide forever, but you do want to have a guide to start off. I would strongly urge and suggest that.
Yeah, maybe also for the sake of not doing everything at once, but really just like doing the
Yeah,
priority first and one after the other.
that's
So
right.
absolutely. Marcus, looking a little bit in the future, where do you see the future of the Ask You Answer? We know it's like an everlasting concept by design
Yeah.
or by nature, but where do you see it going, with all the AI topics flying along, maybe in that context?
Yeah, sometimes people say, well, gee, Google's not even going to be around in 5 years or 10 years. Why would we sit here and produce this content and answer customers' questions? There's a lot of reason for that. Let's just look at one example. Today, okay, so let's say we get to the future and you go to some AI like a chat GPT and it makes a recommendation that you should research a particular company or buy from a particular company. What are you going to do? You're still going to go to their website. And we know that because today, if a friend comes to you and says, hey, I suggest that you choose such and such company, what are you going to do? You're going to go to their website. When you go to their website, what are you going to do? You're going to study them and see, is this company a good fit for me? That's what you're going to do. And hopefully, in your mind, you're going to receive all the answers to your questions, your worries, your doubts. They're going to be addressed there on their website. So that's not going to change. I can promise you in 5 years, websites are still going to be incredibly important, maybe more important than ever. They're going to be vetting you on your website before they reach out to you. That's going to occur. Now, what we also know is that the companies that are doing They Ask You Answer, and they say, all right, They Ask You Answer goes beyond just my website. It's my entire online presence. It's my entire online brand. So the principles that you read in the book, they apply to everything that you might do on social media, everything that you do with video, everything that you use in terms of, like, let's say YouTube or any other social media platform. These things are going to apply to that. And so it's a beautiful social strategy to build your brand, to build that awareness, build that trust, socially speaking. And so you want to lean into that as well. So this whole idea of trust being at the core of every business, that's not going to change. It's not going to go away. Sure, AI is going to make it easier for people to produce some content. But it's interesting. If you read the Ask You Answer, you'll quickly learn that it doesn't matter how many tools you have. What matters is your vision and your courage to actually address what people want to know. AI right now could easily write an article for you and put it on your website about how much your product or service costs. But you might sit there and say, geez, I don't know if I can talk about that. Well, that answer is found, of course, if you read They Ask You Answer, and you'll quickly learn how to address cost and price on your website and do it in a way that doesn't put you in a corner and do it in a way that does elevate trust and generate way more traffic, leads, and sales. But just because somebody has the tools doesn't mean they're going to use them. Right? And we know this with AI. We also know that people are going to be using regular search engines for a long time. They're going to be vetting your website for a long, long time. And it's your job to continue to obsessively listen in terms of their questions, worries, fears, issues, concerns, address them, do it before they reach out to you, not just in person. Do it online, do it on your website, do it on social. That's going to be like that for a good 10 years, 20 years. So you might as well start today because it ain't going to go away. It's like a rock in your shoe. You ever tried walking around with a rock in your shoe? It doesn't last very long until you take your shoe off and remove the rock. So the need for you to do this, it's like that rock in your shoe. You're going to need to do it, whether it's today or in 2 years, but hopefully you're not going to do it because your competitors are crushing you. Hopefully you're doing it because you're forward thinking and you're meeting the marketplace, the customer where they are and where they want to be.
What does it mean for you personally seeing your book in so many languages translated? What does it do with you?
Well, it makes me really happy to see this book translated in German for a few reasons. Um, it's the biggest economy in Europe. That's a big deal in terms of its GDP, its gross domestic product. I mean, it's so many wonderful companies and organizations in Germany work around the world. And so it's it's past due. And besides that, I haven't spoken in Germany yet. So I'm hoping to get out there one of these days. And so maybe if somebody reads the book, they'll realize we got to bring out this guy that wrote this book here that this awesome person Renee had translated into German. So I'm excited about it for a variety of reasons. Those few that do it are going to reap the benefits. I can assure you of that.
So, and I promise to everybody watching this video that whenever you're coming over to Europe, speaking in German speaking markets, you're not only speaking in Germany, but also in my home country, Austria, and also in
In
Switzerland,
Austria as
hopefully.
well.
And
Yeah, and
Switzerland, hopefully, because, all the beautiful places are everywhere around. So,
yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up. We're talking hundreds of thousands of businesses that are German-speaking businesses, Austria, Germany, Switzerland, that have this huge opportunity. And so I'm glad you point that out because that is very, very important to note as well.
yeah, especially, so there will be my very last follow-up question for you. Do you think that consuming this kind of content in your own language, in your mother tongue, makes a difference? I mean, I can only tell for the differences in German between the countries that we just spoke about. It's nuances, but they're important in terms of language. So would you think it makes a difference if people consume this kind of content in their own language?
Oh boy, it's just one of those things where, the phrase, the light bulb just came on, right? And it's like when you can read it in your own tongue, that's when you can just understand it at such a deeper level. And you'll just start, the light bulbs will just start firing off for you. And you'll get so many ideas. And that's my promise. Anybody that reads the book, if you speak German, you read this in your native tongue, oh boy, you're going to be so flooded with ideas. I mean, flooded with ideas. Renee can attest to this, right? Especially with the clients that he works with that have read it before. So I'm excited for everybody out there. This is past due, but it's going to happen. And now a lot of people are going to get a beautiful framework that they can follow and become that voice of trust.
That's great. So the book is out in March this year, and I'm really proud to hand you over your personal copy when we see each other in April this year, if I'm not mistaken. But I can give you now a first sneak preview on what it's going to look like. So as you can see, it looks quite different than the
Oh, I
original
love it.
that you had. But I will also tell you once we meet about the metaphor of the hammer, because I would like to be people keep on asking me, what's the hammer for? And I'm going to be telling you the story once we meet in person.
I like it. I love the cover and I'm excited. I'm very excited about that.
Cool. So, Marcus, thank you so much again for making up the time.
My pleasure. And Renee, thank you for being such a champion for this cause that's a worthy cause.
My,
So I'm grateful for you, buddy.
my pleasure. Thank you, Marcus.
All right. Take care now.